Hello everyone, welcome to Even the Scales. Thank you for clicking on my video today and I hope you're all having a good day. My name's Donna and today on my channel I'm going to talk to you about the 5 weeks that I spent in the Campbelltown Public Hospital. It was a year ago now and I want to talk about that because that was when the abuse that I have been going through here in Campbelltown, New South Wales got extremely bad. First of all, though, I would like to do an acknowledgement of country and acknowledge the Dharawal people, who are the true custodians of the land that I bring you these messages on today. I would also like to pay respect to elders past and present, as well as extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are watching this video today. So it's a year ago today since I was set up by the justice system and the health system, my family, a well-known charity organisation, and some ambulance drivers to be taken to the Campbelltown Public Hospital, where I was admitted as an involuntary mental health patient. I was held there against my will and put through 5 weeks of psychological torture. I should have never been taken to that hospital. It was all premeditated and planned by these groups of people. It wasn't long after that happened that I realized that my family and a lot of the people that I had around me, including that organization, had been involved in setting this setup up throughout 2023. This has been done to me because it's all a part of a cover-up that's been orchestrated by the justice system, and it's been done to make me disappear. And this is because I have spoke up about injustices that I have been through over the past 10 years that have been a result of either negligence by the justice system or corruption. There are police officers in my family and connected to my family that have been obstructing justice from taking place for me over the past 10 years. So I spoke up about them. And that's when all this abuse started. On that day, a year ago, on the 6th of February 2024, I called an organisation to talk to them about what I was going through with my family. I was very upset and I was crying. My family members have been carrying out psychological abuse on me for quite a few years now, and I stayed connected to them because I wanted to be around my grandchildren. I wanted to be a part of their lives. So, I used to put up with a lot of the abuse. So, and my family and the community have been involved in carrying out this mind control abuse. And what they're doing, they provoke me. They're trying to provoke me. They treat me like I am less than. They treat me like I'm not good enough. This is so that I become depressed or that I lose hope, or so that I lose hope in my life and have an emotional outburst and a mental health breakdown or something like that. This is what they have been trying to do. That's all part of the mind control abuse, where I'm being provoked constantly. And I have been, since the day I went into that hospital up until now. And yeah, they want me to have this emotional outburst. They want me to have a mental health breakdown so that they can, take me to hospital and keep me there. Or they want me to just lose hope in life so that I take my own life, and, they don't look like they have done anything to make that happen. So the health system have definitely worked with the justice system to do this to me. They have, they've wanted me to get sick mentally or physically. And the reason my family is so invested in this is because they have stolen inheritance from me. And, the justice system are involved because they want to cover up all their corruption. They don't want the public finding out about the injustices that took place in my life. And the justice system want control of my life. So yeah, they want me to become mentally or physically sick to the point where I can't look after myself, or yeah, they want me to take my life or pass away. I know that they're keeping information about my health from me, and they have been for a long time. And I believe that I actually had a stroke, and this is because a year ago when I was taken to that hospital, I did have an experience where my blood pressure kept going very high, and I started to lose control of one side of my face. Like I was trying to eat, and it was difficult for me to, yeah, like to eat food. I've also had worsening left side weakness over the past year. I have suffered from that for quite a few years. You know, maybe I've had a couple of strokes. I'm not sure. You know, they're probably just mini strokes, but this is what they have been trying to make worse throughout all of 2024. That is the reason why they are carrying out this abuse, because they want me to have another stroke and, you know, for me to be in a position where I can't take care of myself anymore so that they can have control of my life. So, yeah, they're keeping information about my health from me. To, to carry out this whole setup, they have researched my life in great detail. These people know absolutely everything about my life, right back from when I was a child. They know all the trauma I've been through in my life, and they have also been listening in on my home and collecting information for quite some time as well. And my family, you know, I know now that they were um, creating setups throughout all of 2023. They were actually spending a lot of money on throwing parties and doing different things just to carry out psychological abuse. So they were trying to get me in a weak emotional state before this, you know, main event took place, and I was taken to the hospital. So yeah, my home's bugged, and it is not only the police, it is my family and members of the community that can still to this day listen in on my home. And this is so that they can come up with creative ways to abuse me. And so they've collected all of this information about my past in great detail, and they have been collecting information from inside my home, the things I say and do with, you know, inside my own privacy of my own home. And they are using all of this information to carry out this abuse, and have done for the past year. My family were actually taking notes throughout 2023, you know, just getting ideas on how they could carry out abuse. And a lot of lies were also told on me from the people that I've had around me, by my family members. Maybe even the justice system spread lies about me. I think this was to try and keep people away from me, so that I had no help whatsoever, no help or support, so that no one would come towards me and want to be in any relationship whatsoever. Yeah, just so that I wouldn't have any help, and so that I felt totally isolated, which was half the reason why I called this organisation on this day for help, because, yeah, I was feeling isolated and alone, and I really just wanted to talk to someone. But there have been rumours spread about me, things like I'm an ice addict, or I have been an ice addict, that I worship the devil, that I was a prostitute or am a prostitute, and even worse than that. I think it's even been said that I was somebody who harmed children, and this is definitely something that I have never done. This is definitely nothing like the person that I am. But I think that these lies were told to people just so that they would abuse me. And yeah, to keep people away from my life, keep me isolated. And, it was easy for the justice system to do this because they knew my family was uncaring. So it was quite easy for them to set this up, take me to hospital, and I might have never have got out of there. I don't know how I got out of that hospital, but I did somehow, and I thank God every day for that. Everybody had something to gain out of this. The justice system had been paying people to carry out abuse on me for the past year. And I think, yeah, a lot of people had money to gain when the job was done, when I became so sick that I couldn't look after myself, or when I passed away. Because the whole thing has been done to um, cause me fear and anxiety, because they know I suffer from severe anxiety, and they know about this health problem that they've been keeping from me. And yeah, they've been trying to make that worse. I also think that I was being fed hallucinates. I was given some products from my family members on the lead up to this happening, and I was using these products, and I do believe that they were laced with hallucinates. So that would have contributed to, the way I was feeling. I felt like when I called that organisation for help, I felt like I was being either watched or listened to in my home. And I also thought I was smelling smells in my home. And that organisation knew what they were going to do when, if they received a call from me. They had already rehearsed the whole thing. And the fact that I thought I was being listened to or watched in my home and smelling these phantom smells or whatever, I think they thought, they could say to me that, I was delusional, and they were actually gaslighting me on the phone by the things they were saying. The girl that was on the phone, she was using the information that they had researched on my past, the things that annoyed me and things like that that they had found out. She was using those things to try and make me have an emotional outburst on the phone to her. And, I now know that my home is definitely bugged. And I also know that some of the people around me have access to be able to send certain smells into my home through my roof, because for those of you who follow my channel, I have been writing on my community wall for the past week about how some of the people around me have been abusing me by sending these smells through into my home. They're coming in through my roof. And so I now know that, I was right in saying that all these things were happening to me, even a year ago. But yeah, they wanted to say that I was delusional. I was crying. I was upset. I was in no way thinking of taking my life whatsoever. They kept insisting that they were going to call an ambulance, and I kept saying, no, don't. And I think I hung up on them. I don't know, I might have been hung up on her or she hung up on me. I really don't know, because I was so upset. And then I called them back because I wanted to make sure that they didn't call the ambulance. And I said, yeah, look, cancel that ambulance. I don't need an ambulance. I'm fine. I've calmed down now. I'm just going to go and rest and I'll be okay. And they said okay. And then I went and lied down. And then about 20 minutes, half hour later, this ambulance turned up. And the ambulance driver had rehearsed everything that they were going to say and do as well, and their partner. And I went out onto my veranda and I seen them, and I said, look, I don't need an ambulance. You can go back. I don't need you here. And they said to me, just let us in and we'll just have a talk. It just might help you to talk about what you're going through. And I thought to myself, yeah, well, it might make me feel better to talk to someone. So I let them in. And then when they told me to go through everything that I had told to that organisation on the phone, like why I felt upset, and I told them that I thought I was either being watched in my home or listened to, and they, said to me as well, like, we think that you are delusional and that you need to come to the hospital and be assessed because of that. And they also had this social worker turn up, and I thought this person was there to help me because I think they were in my home for about an hour, and um, this social worker was writing down everything I was saying. And I thought they were there to help me. I thought they were going to help me with the abuse that I've been going through and the fact that I thought my home was bugged, and that I thought that's what they were there for. But they weren't. And I think they were just trying to get more information about so that they could use it to abuse me. And then when I said, yeah, well, I will come to the hospital just to get checked out, because that's what I thought, that's all that I thought was going to happen. They said, well, if you feel embarrassed riding in the ambulance, you can ride in the car with the social worker if you like, if it makes you feel better. And I was embarrassed about getting in the ambulance. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll ride in the car. But I realise now that they did this because they wanted the community around here to think I was being arrested. That's why they did that. When I got to the hospital, I could not believe what was going on around me. And I knew straight away something was very wrong. I was taken to a part of the hospital. It looked like some kind of emergency room. I'd never been in that section of the hospital before. Maybe it was just the emergency room for the mental health patients. I'm not sure, but I'd never seen that part of the hospital before. It was very, very overcrowded. There was no social distancing in that room. And what they had done was they had all these fake patients set up there, and they were using the information that they had collected on me from listening in my home and the research they had done from my family and the people that I had around me. They had found out the things that I disliked and all my phobias and things like that, and they were using them. This was the start of it all. I mean, I was there for 5 weeks, and this went on for the whole 5 weeks. But I just couldn't believe it when I was taken to this room and what was going on around me. It was so loud and chaotic, and they were doing that deliberately. And yeah, they just tried to just affect my stress levels. That's what they were trying to do. Then, after a long wait in that room, they took me to another part of the hospital, which was quieter. That's when I got really worried when I was taken to this part because, first of all, they put me in a chair and I was left in that chair for 15 to 16 hours straight. All night I was left in that chair. I do have a pain condition, so I was very, very uncomfortable there. And they had still set up all this psychological abuse to carry out on me. They had 3 security guards set up in this room waiting for me to arrive. And those security guards just stood over me all night, just guarding me, making sure that I didn't go anywhere. And they were just there to intimidate me. They were also talking about stuff like the information that they had researched, about my life, and they were talking about that stuff. And, I just couldn't believe what was going on. And I was really worried at that point. I started to think to myself, like, I might not ever get out of here. Like, this is a total setup. And yeah, these security guards just stood there all night, and I thought, why? Why am I being guarded like this? And they were also getting people to go into the toilet and urinate all over the toilet, so that every time I went into the bathroom, there was just this big mess in the bathroom. I mean, that was supposed to make me, supposed to trigger me into getting angry. And um, then while I was in that section, this nurse come and sat next to me, and she had a folder with her, and she was also asking me the things that happened that led up to the point to, why I was in the position I was in now. She wanted to know what I had been going through with my family. She wanted to know the things that I thought, like about my home, about the, how I thought I was being listened to in my home and stuff like that. And she looked like she was worried about getting caught doing what she was doing. Like she was like writing really, really quick on this pad, like taking down all the information very quickly. And, I thought she was there to help me, just like I thought the social worker was there to help me, who had taken down all the information that she was taking down. And she said to me after she'd finished, she was only there about 10 minutes, and then she said to me, I'll be back in a minute. And I was thinking, oh, great, this woman's going to help me. And she never come back. And I now realise that was probably being done just to build my hopes up, to make me think that I was going to get help, and then just to, disappoint me. Or that could have been just, she could have been just there, just trying to get more information for them to use to carry out abuse on me. But yeah, she never came back, and I told that woman like lots of personal stuff because I thought she was there to help me. They also started sending in abusers from my past into that section during that night, and they were there. This person come in and they put on a show, like they had been admitted as a mental health patient, and they were actually mocking things that I had done in my home prior to that night. So yeah, that was all set up for them to come in. This is an abusive person from my past, and I was quite worried about that. And I told one of the security guards, and yeah, they weren't concerned about it at all. That security guard actually called that person by name, and yeah, which like let me know that they weren't going to help me. They were on that person's side. It was all part of the abuse. So yeah, I was supposed to be speaking up about this because they wanted me to look schizophrenic or delusional. And yeah, I really started to worry that I would never get out of there at that point. And there was a nurse um, in that section that was meant to be taking care of me that night, but she wasn't. She had a really, really bad attitude, and I was ignored for pretty much the whole 15, 16 hours that I was left in that chair. And then in the morning, two nurses come over to me and they said, we're going to take you to another ward now. Oh, just before that too, just before that happened, there were also other people coming in from my past that were either posing as people that worked at the hospital, or they were actually people that worked in the hospital. But they were people from my past, and they were placed there deliberately to cause me psychological abuse. Maybe embarrassment of the fact that I was there, or I'm not sure. But yeah. So yeah, then these two nurses come over in the morning after I'd spent the whole night there with the security guards standing over me. And they said, we're going to take you to another ward now where you can have some breakfast and you'll be more comfortable and you can wait to see a doctor. So I thought, great, I just want to be comfortable. I was so uncomfortable and distressed from sitting in that chair. And when they took me to this other ward, we went to the fourth floor of the Campbelltown Hospital in the mental health section. And they started showing me around, and I thought, why are you showing me around? Like, I'm not planning on being here for that long. And yeah, they showed me all around, and that's when I realized I wasn't getting out. They waited until they had locked me in there, and then they said, yeah, you're being admitted as an involuntary mental health patient because we think that you're a danger to yourself or others because you've been having delusions. I was not having delusions because the things that I was thinking were happening were actually happening, and they're still happening today. My house is still bugged today. So when I arrived at this fourth floor of the hospital, it was like an Area 51. That was the first thought that entered my mind when I looked at the room that I was taken to. And they had set up props all around the place, and they had fake patients all ready to start carrying out abuse on me. And the abuse that was being carried out, as far as the props that they had set up and the fake patients, it was all based on the research that they had found out about me from the past, all the things that they had heard in my home. My devices were also hacked, and everyone at that hospital could see my devices as well. And this is so that they could carry out psychological abuse on me and just come up with creative ideas to do that. The doctors, the nurses, the cooks, the fitness workers, the social workers, every single person that set foot on that fourth floor, even the visitors and my family members were all involved in carrying out psychological abuse during that 5 weeks. And yeah, the room I was taken to, it was like very claustrophobic and isolated, and it had all these like doors all over the place. They were in every direction, and they were like these square doors, and I think they were like crawl spaces or something like that. They all had locks on them. There was also one outside my room, and like they really made the room look like a morgue. That's what it looked like. It really did, and I think that was deliberate to cause psychological abuse. They also had all props set up everywhere. They knew that I had studied numerology and that I'm a tarot reader. So what they were trying to do was create all these visuals around the place to make me think that I was seeing synchronicities. And I mean, these were all set up. It was obvious to me because I'm very, very intuitive. And yeah, they were using certain numbers like bad luck numbers in numerology and numbers that are significant to me. And I mean, for an example, there was an object that had 666 written on it, like, the number of the devil, like just all these visuals that they had set up. And there was also across from me, there was a room that had a sign on the door that said like that it was the electric shock room. So, that was just another visual to cause me fear, just to let me know, if you act up, this is where you're going to end up. And, I kept thinking, why? Why is this happening to me? Why have I been admitted as an involuntary mental health patient? I'm no danger to anyone. I was so scared. And I think they made it like the fourth floor as well. Like it was like they shut down the whole fourth floor of the hospital. Well, they did. They did. They shut down the whole fourth floor of the hospital to carry this out because anyone who set foot on that fourth floor was involved in this. They knew what was happening. And I think they made it the fourth floor as well because that can be an unlucky number in some customs and some countries. That is an unlucky number. And I think, yeah, they had told a lot of lies on me. So a lot of the people that were set up ready to carry out abuse on me at the hospital, like the patients and the doctors and the nurses, they were, very eager to do that because I think they believed the lies. And I was just mocked and taunted and put through different setups the whole time I was there. Like they would set traps for me. And if I said anything, I looked delusional. So I couldn't say anything to anyone. And yeah, I mean, I've got all these people around me like mocking me and taunting me. And if I said anything, well, they could just turn around and say, well, you are in a mental health ward. Like, you are amongst people who do have a mental health problem. So, you've got to expect that. But it wasn't like that. It was definitely way more um, extreme than just, yeah, it was every single person on that floor was there to carry out abuse 24 hours a day. Some of the patients would stay for weeks and some of them would stay for just one day. I mean, they must have been being paid to do what they were doing. And, they could have been paid actors, some of them. I do believe that some of them may have been friends or family members of people that just had some kind of grudge against me that wanted to carry out abuse on me. And I also think they were using homeless people because some of the people would just come in and stay for one night. And I mean, yeah, like, of course, a homeless person is going to take up the opportunity to experience a bed and a warm meal for the night. So I think they were using homeless people as well. And a lot of the patients and a lot of the patients were using the fact that my family had abandoned me to carry out abuse. They would, really make a big deal of the fact that their family members were coming in and taking them out. They would make sure that I seen it. They would make sure that I seen their family members pampering them. Um, and they actually put a woman in the room next to me to just specifically concentrate on that kind of abuse. So she was there for about 2.5, 3 weeks, I think, maybe more. And she was just put there so she could carry out that kind of abuse on me, like 24 hours a day, just to, yeah, make me feel more abandoned and more hopeless. And yeah, they like had it so she was just like constantly being showered with gifts and being pampered and being taken out for lunch and things like that. And yeah, they were abusing in groups. They were. And one example of this was that one morning I walked out to go to breakfast and there was a group of women there and they were making fun of me and they were saying that I was gay. And I'm not gay. I've never been gay. But I just couldn't believe that, in this day and age, that there was a group of older women making fun of somebody's sexual preferences. Like nobody at all in this day and age should be, mocking or taunting anyone for their sexual preferences. I mean, that's a thing of the past. That should never happen in this day and age. And I couldn't believe, these were mature women that were doing this. And yeah, they were saying that I was gay and I'm not gay. And I think some of them wanted to be seen as the best abusers and they were enjoying the attention that they were getting off the rest of the group. If they were actors, they wanted to be seen as the best actors. And they were enjoying it. They were enjoying the abuse they were carrying out on me, no doubt. You could tell. And there was no such thing as social distancing in that hospital either, whatsoever. In the 3 sections that I had been in up until the point when they took me to the 4th floor. There had been no social distancing, and there wasn't the whole 5 weeks that I spent there. What they were actually doing was getting people to really intrude on my space deliberately to try and get me to, get angry. So, yeah, there was no social distancing whatsoever. I'm going to leave this video here, and then I'm going to come back on and do the other half because I don't want to make it too long, and I want to check this one out and make sure that it has recorded properly because it was lagging a bit before. So yeah, I'll come back on shortly and do the other half. Yeah, if you've watched this up until now, thank you so much. I really appreciate it if you've watched it till the end. If you can, I would really appreciate it if you could share or like the video. It would just help it circulate on YouTube so that more people can find out about what's going on here. Tell your friends about it because, I mean, who knows how many people they have done this to in the past and how many people are going to have to go through this in the future if we don't make people aware that this kind of thing is going on out here. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye for now, and God bless.